Hello. Now we can learn some more about how to use conjunctions to make good sentences. In this lesson, we are going to look at some more conjunctions, and I hope this will help you to write good reports. Hi, this is Nick Farrow with English Discovery, making English learning clearer. Let's go straight to the vocabulary check. Here are the key words, and remember to pause if you need to check your dictionary. Okay, let's move on. In English, when we use the imperative form, we don't use a subject. Look at these examples. Okay, this form is still a grammatical sentence because we understand that the subject is you. When you see this pattern in this lesson, don't be confused. It's okay. It's good grammar. It's a sentence. As we said in the first video, there are two basic types of conjunction. This lesson will focus on type 2. But first, let's do a quick review of type 1 sentence structure. This is what we studied in lesson 1. Here's an example. Here's the conjunction, and here are the two clauses. In grammar books, they are called independent clauses because they can both become sentences. They can stand alone as sentences, and they're equal in value. However, I'm going to use the simpler expression main clause from now in this lesson. In type 2, the clauses are not equal, and it is important to catch their meaning correctly. In the type 2 sentence, we see a main clause and a second clause, but when they are separated, only the main clause can be a sentence. The second clause needs something to make it complete. It cannot be a sentence alone, so we call it a dependent clause. So the pattern is main clause and dependent clause. To make this point clear, let's look at another example. In many of these sentences with a main clause and a dependent clause, the dependent clause can be first. Let's look at an example. This clause cannot be a sentence alone, but with the main clause, it's complete. And in this case, where is the conjunction? It still appears before the dependent clause. So in this type 2 sentence, it's possible to put the main clause before or after the dependent clause. Here are two more examples. main clause first, and then dependent clause first. And here you see the same pattern again. Now comes a complicated point. If you look at these examples, there is a comma only when the main clause is first. In this case, it's important to put the comma there. It's easier to read and it's easier to hear. Look at the top example again and listen to the intonation. He put on his sweater because he was cold. It's pretty smooth. But listen to the second example. Because he was cold, he put on his sweater. Can you hear that comma? The intonation goes up and it's easier to hear. Here's the next challenge. We have seen some examples of sentences with the dependent clauses appearing before or after the main clause. But which is better, before or after? In both cases, the grammar is okay, so you don't need to worry too much about this question. But sometimes the meaning can change a little. If you studied my lesson about very basic sentences, you will know that we said that a simple sentence has a topic and a comment. And you may see the same in these cases. Mostly, the topic is first and the comment comes after that. So in the example above, the first one is about putting on a sweater, but the second one is about being cold. Let's see some other examples. Now the first one is okay both ways, but perhaps the writer or speaker feels that one point is the topic and chooses to put that first. But look at this second one. There's a time order in this information. The first is about the instructions and when to check them. The second is about what to do after you open the package. So there's a slight change of meaning. Here's one more. This one is a little different. It's very interesting because the second style, when my mum got home, it helps us to imagine the setting before we hear the main point. I think it's easier to understand when we are listening. And one final point, look at the third one again, the two last sentences. Notice that the topic, mum, is in the first clause in both cases. The second clause has the pronoun. It's easier to understand when the topic is clear early in the sentence. Until now, our examples have all been with single topic sentences, the same topic for both clauses. But there may be cases with two topics acting together. In this example, the topics are the problem and you. In the next example, we can see the train and I as two different topics in a relationship. And this one has the same two topics. Here's the next topic. Our first focus is on so, and take a look at this. You may have noticed that so is actually a type 1 conjunction. There are two equal clauses. It was very cold. I put on a heavy coat. You can't reverse the clauses. So I put on a heavy coat. It was very cold. Makes no sense. This is a type 1 sentence. Okay, let's see some more good examples. And can you see what type of sentence these are? What kind of meanings do they have? Well, each sentence is a simple cause and effect style. And so comes before the effect in every case. So is a type 1 conjunction, but because is a type 2. It has a dependent clause, and you can start the sentence with because. So let's see how to use it correctly. We just said that so comes before the effect or result. What about because? Let's take an example. And after because is what? Right, it's the cause. So, because comes before the cause every time. And I think that's very easy to remember. Some more examples. Do you see the causes? And because is before the cause every time. And if you put the dependent clause first, it's still the same rule. Let's practice this because it's important. This is quite simple. Please complete these sentences. You must choose so or because only. Pause the video to complete everything. Okay, here are the answers, and they are not flexible. Your answer will be right or wrong. Check them out. If you get them all correct, well done. You can write some things about causes and effects. That's it. But there's one more video on conjunctions to explain a few extra points. Then you will understand most of the basic ideas you need for good writing and communication using conjunctions. See you then.